It was September 2022, and I remember sitting on the couch with my husband watching a movie, like an ordinary night. I don't care to recall what the movie was, but there was a very angry man just screaming and belittling this woman. And I had seen angry movies before. I'd watched true crime documentaries and enjoyed them. I'd been a fan of Dateline and SVU and so on. But that night, I was extremely uncomfortable. And during that scene, my husband actually got up to go to the bathroom, so I was left alone on the couch. And I remember becoming very nauseous quickly. I remember my feet went numb. It was really strange. My hands tingled. My heart was racing, and I couldn't breathe. I began to sob uncontrollably, just sitting alone on the couch. It was as if all of these sensations happened in slow motion, but it couldn't have been more than 2 minutes before my husband emerged from the bathroom. As he was approaching the couch, he was talking to me, and I couldn't reply. So when he got to the couch, he found me in a ball sobbing, and he was completely blindsided. Neither of us knew what was happening. This had never happened to me before. I couldn't control it. These panic attacks occurred regularly over the next 6 months, whenever I would be watching shows where there was an angry man abusing a woman or abusing children. During these 6 months, I was experiencing intense flashbacks of memories and incidences that I never wanted to be reminded of. I was having terrible nightmares. I remember one night as I was winding down from a panic attack, I was sitting on the couch, crying and kind of calming myself down. My husband was also on the couch crying, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he asked me, "Are you happy?" That question caught me off guard. I looked at him and I said, "Of course I'm happy." I realized that I looked very miserable. Then I realized that I think he thought he wasn't making me happy, and I was very sad. I thought to myself, but I am happy. I'm also exhausted. And I knew then that something was very wrong. I knew I needed help. I called my therapist and made an appointment. And at that point, my therapist and I had a 6-year relationship. Back in 2017, she was a couples therapist for myself and my then husband of 20 years. That marriage consisted of years of various forms of abuse, control, isolation, and manipulation. And she was instrumental in getting my son and I out of that house safely. I couldn't have done it without her. I trusted her. So I walked into my appointment with her in March 2023. I got 2 steps through the door, and I began to sob. I crumbled onto the chair, couldn't get a word out. When I composed myself and explained to her what had been happening to me, she looked at me for a moment and then proceeded to explain that this happens sometimes to people who have endured long-term abuse and trauma. That when the body and the mind begin to feel safe enough to deal with the trauma and the memories, they reveal themselves. And that's called delayed onset PTSD. And that I had it. After processing that, I became very upset. I just remember thinking, I had navigated the hardest times already. I had gotten out. I'd gotten my children out safely. I'd gone through a terribly difficult divorce. It was behind me. I fought incredibly hard. I really thought I could just leave it behind me and never look back. All the memories, all the horrible incidences, that I could just block it out and try to forget about it. I had a beautiful new life. I had my kids safe. I was safe. I had a wonderful, kind husband who loved me unconditionally. And I got so frustrated knowing that now I have to battle and deal with the ripple effects of years of abuse that I didn't deserve. She told me that this would likely be a lifelong thing, that it would wax and wane and I would have good days and bad days. And it was really ironic to me because all the things that I wanted to forget and all the things that I never wanted to talk about, I then had to talk about in order to heal. It's still very backwards in my mind. I kept telling her, this isn't right. How is this going to help me? This is miserable. And she said this can help and to trust the process. And I trusted her. And I've dealt with it. And it's been really hard. So from March 2023 through September 2023, I wasn't working. I was on disability and seeing my therapist once a week. It was incredibly hard for me to focus at work while attending therapy. The sessions were brutal. It took me days to recover from them. I was having numerous anxiety and panic attacks. So my therapist had me try many different ways to cope. She gave me worksheets and we tried to learn new skills to help relieve my symptoms. I tried everything she told me to do. I tried it in different order. I tried it again and again to get some relief. And she told me to get my hands dirty. She told me, go outside, get grounded, feel the dirt beneath your feet. I had a very large backyard. It was bare. Went outside and I found peace. I would walk around my yard, sometimes just crying. Became a morning routine for me. And one day I just thought, I'm going to dig. I'm going to plant some stuff. And I started to plant perennials everywhere. I found it so soothing. I found it calming, being outside, listening to the birds, looking at the trees. I found myself appreciating the small things, digging in the dirt, looking at the ants. I landscaped the crap out of that yard that summer. I had picked up more mulch than my husband had ever seen in his life. I did it all. My yard looked beautiful. I also found therapeutic opportunities with indoor plants. And I accumulated many indoor plants during my time. I'd never been able to keep them alive before. And for some reason, I was having my plants just thrive in the house. They were blooming. The energy they were giving off, I found very calming. She kept telling me there was something to plant therapy. And it took a while, but I realized it really worked for me. I have numerous plants named after the Harry Potter characters. I have plants named after Disney characters. I talk to my plants in a very sane way. I get such joy from them. In fact, I donate 10 plants a month to a domestic violence shelter that's very dear to me. I have 2 plants that produce these babies. Their names are Bertha and Joan. And Bertha alone has donated 40 plants already. And I'm really proud of that. I'm grateful to give the residents at that shelter the opportunity to learn about plant therapy, but also to understand that somebody outside of that shelter cares about them. Somebody's thinking about them and wants them to have a brighter day. So my therapist and I have continued my therapy for the last 2 years. I've been to see her almost every week, and I'm really proud and relieved to say that I'm having more good days than bad days. And I'll be honest, my day can still be destroyed by hearing the wrong song. I can still be brought to tears quickly by a handful of very powerful triggers. But I'm improving. I'm learning to cope. And I'm learning to be an advocate for myself if I need an accommodation so that I can have a better day. And I'm beginning to trust that people around me truly want to help, even if it's just me telling them to turn off that song. They want me to be happy. They want me to feel good. I think I've found a deep strength in me going through this process that I never knew I had. It's a different strength than I had before. I really want others to find it in themselves. This experience has lit a fire in me to want to help. I understand how hard this was for me. I was in a 23-year marriage that was extremely unhealthy. It was abusive. My children were witness to a lot of the abuse, which was very hard. I know how hard it is to leave. I tried to leave 4 times with my children, and I had to go back. I had to make the best choice for me at that time. And anyone who knows about abuse, when you're in those relationships, you are in a double bind. You have to make the best choice out of many horrible options. If you have left before and gone back, you did it because you had to, for whatever reason that was. I want you to understand that there's no shame in that you're not a failure. That's the process. And you had to make a choice. You were in a double bind. Typically, it takes 7 times for a person to leave their abuser. It's even harder when there are children involved. The best way to deal with an abuser is to not have any contact with them. And when there are children involved, you have to contact them. There's no option. That makes it really hard to deal with. Sometimes you just simply have to hang in there and wait for the right opportunity for you to be able to leave. And that can take time. It can take planning for it to be done safely. Please be kind to yourselves. Feeling like a failure, feeling as if you're doing things wrong isn't going to help you. You're doing the best you can. We cannot take that load on. This podcast is not easy for me. It's very triggering. I'm sure you're hearing my voice shake. I'm feeling very vulnerable. The content I'm sharing with you and will be sharing, those closest to me haven't heard. My husband has not heard these stories. I never wanted to talk to anyone about them. I don't want them to see me differently. I don't want anyone to know these very personal, private details of what happened to me. They're not fun to talk about. They're uncomfortable to listen to. But that's the problem, right? If we don't talk about it, if we don't get support, how will we have the strength to leave? How will we be heard? How will things change? So I'm going to give this my hardest try. It may not be perfect, but I'm hoping it'll be powerful. I'm hoping it will help somebody. And please, even if this isn't something you can relate to, I'm sure you know someone who can. 1 in 4 women alone have experienced or are experiencing being in an abusive relationship. Somebody needs to hear these things. Please pass it on. This podcast wasn't something I planned on doing. This is the farthest thing from what I had planned. I planned on making plant hangers. One day I was looking around and my tables were full and my house is small and my house was full of plants, and I thought, I want more plants, but I don't have room. So I thought I'll hang them up. So instead of purchasing those expensive, cute macrame plant hangers, I thought they don't look that hard to make. I'll try to make them myself. So I went on YouTube and I followed along. I found it very soothing working with my hands. It quieted my mind. I was pretty good at it. So one day when I was making one, I was thinking about the domestic violence shelter that helped me. And I thought about all the people who are stuck and hurting and were trying to escape, and the people who couldn't escape for whatever reason. And I just thought, hang in there. It just came to me, and I stopped what I was doing and I wrote it in my phone. I don't know why. And I kept going. And I thought about it often. I thought, that just resonated with me in so many ways. I told my husband about it, and I said, I think this could be a really fun hobby for me, and maybe it can mean something. And he loved the idea. People were asking me for them, so I would make them. And then my husband had a beautiful idea of doing craft shows. And craft shows, let me tell you, are uncomfortable for me. I've been to 4. I spent the first 2 hiding behind my table. I didn't want to talk to anybody. My husband was having a great time talking with everybody. It was so funny. I didn't want to. I was very nervous. I felt vulnerable. There were many people there. It was a wide open space. I didn't know if I wanted to have a conversation with anybody about the meaning of hang in there. I felt scared. But then at the 3rd one, I started to relax. And as I'd watched my husband talk with all these people, I realized that they're kind and they all have their hobbies that they're proud of and that bring them joy. And they were so supportive of mine. I realized that I was safe there and I could go ahead and enjoy it. And I really learned to, and it pushed against all of my symptoms. And I feel like I was better after it. I'd grown, possibly had a relief of my symptoms, some of them. And I found myself provoked to speak about it. I found myself wanting to talk to people. It was easier for me to talk about things. It was almost as if I felt a push. And I hadn't expected it. I hadn't wanted to talk about it thus far. I didn't know why I felt this way, but I thought maybe this is a natural progression of things. And so I thought maybe I could try to do a podcast and reach people. I could help people at the shelter with it. So that's how Hang in There, the podcast came to be. It wasn't my plan. I hope that this can generate growth and strengthen people. I hope this can empower people to have hard conversations, to get help. And I hope we can produce enough of a stink where we will get noticed, where we can make changes. I hope we can have guests on that can clarify things that just don't make sense and why we haven't had any progress. I'm going to stop and take a moment and breathe. And if this has been hard for any of you to listen to, I encourage you to do the same. I want to formally introduce myself to you. I haven't yet, honestly, because I was afraid. So right now, I'm going to own this. My name is Melissa, and I'm happy to meet you. On a positive note, I want to ask that you all be kind to yourselves. talk to someone, take a bath, exercise, and then have dessert. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope that you come back and listen and interact. This is definitely a work in progress for Hang in There and for me. And it's very important to me that people have reliable information and also know where to find it. I plan on posting resources on my website at hanginThere.net to help facilitate a network of support and education, but also community. I also want to provide a safe space for anyone looking to learn and heal. Again, Hang in There has a very important mission. If you or anyone you know could benefit from listening or from the information on hanginThere.net, please share it with them. We like to call it spreading the strength, so please help us pass it along. And please hang in there, because sometimes that's all we can do.